zien. Goed, we hebben er één hier. Een Ig Nobel Prize winnaar, Dan Meyer.
Here it is. Thank you. When I met with Peter in October at Harvard at the Ig Nobel Prize ceremony, he told me that PINC was about making people think. Making people think outside the box, making people think in new ways, different ways, think about things they'd never thought about before. I also found out that PINC was about exploring the boundaries of the human condition, of the human experience, about dreaming beyond your dreams, stretching the mind, overcoming obstacles, taking risks, and doing the impossible. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. That's some of the things that I do today. This is not so much about me, though. I want to challenge you to do the impossible in your life. If I can do it, you can do it. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. I want to challenge you to think outside the box and think inside the body, inside the human body, to think about some old topics that you may have never thought of before, or if you have thought of it, to think about it in a new way. Sword swallowing, is it real? So I have a question for you. How many of you believe sword swallowing is just a trick, a magician's trick? Come on, it's got to be. You can't really swallow a solid steel sword, right? It's got to be a trick, an illusion or something, right? Because it's 99% impossible to swallow a solid steel sword. So let's do a little demonstration. See if you believe here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 18-inch long sword and plunge it down my throat, just for your entertainment pleasure right here today. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, how many of you think this is a real fake sword? Yeah? This is one of those magician's tricks. How about if we do something a little bit longer than that? What I have here is a 24-inch Tai Chi sword from China. Let's see if this works. Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. This is one of those fake swords that magicians use to try and imitate real sword swallowers. Now, as Peter said, I'm going to talk about the Ig Nobel Prize, the 2007 Ig Nobel Prize in Medicine at Harvard. But before I do that, Peter said to make it kind of personal. And people always ask me, how or why would you become a sword swallower? Did you just wake up one day and decide you could swallow swords? So if it's okay with you, I'd like to take you on a little journey. I've never done this before. It's kind of personal, but I will take you on a little journey and show you how I came to become a sword swallower and maybe to challenge you to do the impossible in your lives. I started out like most of you. I started out as a small child. I was born in Indiana. In a small town, average parents. No, they did not work in the circus. My father sold insurance, my mother was a nurse, and I grew up like a regular kid, except for that I was afraid of everything. I was extremely shy. I was afraid of the dark. I was afraid of spiders and snakes. Is there anybody here who's afraid of spiders and snakes? No. I was afraid of heights. I was afraid of water, actually. I was afraid of sharks. I was afraid of heights. I was even afraid of whips. And more than anything else, I was afraid of doctors and nurses, the sight of blood. I was afraid of needles. Anybody afraid of needles? Dentist? No, I hate that stuff. Those are the things I was afraid of. More than anything else, I was afraid of people. I was extremely shy. I suffered from borderline social anxiety disorder, which meant I could not get in front of a group of my classmates, 10 classmates, and speak to them without my hands shaking so bad I couldn't read the paper. So you can imagine what it's like being in a foreign country in front of a bunch of foreigners here. Thank you. Let's fast forward to college. And actually, as a little child, the other kids would beat me up. They would beat me up. They wouldn't let me on the sports teams. They said, no, you're a fraidy cat, we're going to beat you up. So I vowed that I would do real magic, things that the other kids would not do. When I was a kid, my dad took me to the circus. I saw a sword swallower at the circus, and I thought, nah, it's got to be fake. It can't be real. In college, as many of you may have known, some of the best lessons learned in college are not learned in the classroom. In college, I learned to juggle and become a clown. So I did clowning in college. And from there, I learned to juggle, ride the unicycle, walk on tall stilts, and I even learned from a local magician to do fire eating. And then I thought I was doing real magic. Now, that was pretty neat. From there, I had the opportunity to move to India. In 1978, was a missionary there for a better part of a year. And in India, I saw sword swallowers with my own 2 eyes, and I believed it was real. And while I was in India, a friend of mine said, "Do you have thrones?" And he said, "Do you know what thrones are?" And I said, "No, what are thrones?" And he said, "Thrones are major life goals." He said, "If you could throw a dart at a map, if you could go any place in the world, if you could do anything you wanted to do, what would you want to do?" And so at the age of 21, while I was laying in a bed having malaria fever in India, I made up my list of thrones, my major life goals. And they included to travel all the major continents of the world, to learn a number of languages, to work on a ship, to live on a deserted island, to live with a tribe of Indians, to work in the music business in Nashville, to produce records, to work as a clown or to work with a circus, to visit all the major 7 wonders of the world, that type of thing, to get over my fear of heights or my fear of water. And so I set about to do these thrones. The next year, I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to move to the Bahamas. A friend of my dad owned this little island, a mile long by 1/3 of a mile wide. So I moved there, and I thought, oh, I can check off one of my lists there, move to a deserted island. So I lived in a coconut grove in the south side of the island, and lived with a couple other kids for the first 2 weeks, and then they left, and I stayed on that island for about 7 years. By myself the first 5 years, almost like a Robinson Crusoe. I lived in a thatch hut. I speared fish to eat. I had to get in the water and swim with sharks and learn to swim, so I checked that off my list as well. So this was in the Bahamas, little strip key in the Berry Island of the Bahamas, and that's what I did for about 5 years. Then a cruise ship stopped at the island, and they rented the island for 2 years, and so I worked on the cruise ship, so I could check that off my list for 2 years. So these are all things, believe it or not, these are leading to sword swallowing. From the Bahamas, I moved to Mexico, where I got to explore all the pyramids in the Yucatan Peninsula, including Chichen Itza, which is one of the 7 wonders of the world. Then I moved down to the Amazon rainforest, where I actually got to live with a tribe of Indians in Puyo Pungo in Ecuador. I actually got to go to Machu Picchu in Peru, which is another one of the 7 wonders of the world. Check that off my list. So, I got to do some of these things. Then I moved to Sweden, and I got to climb to the top of the highest mountain in Scandinavia, Mount Kebnekaise, in the northern part of Sweden above the Arctic Circle, so I could check that off my list. These are just some of the goals. From there, I moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and I worked in the music industry for several years. In 1997, I ran across a sword swallower by the name of George the Giant, and by this time I was still juggling and still fire eating, but wanting to learn sword swallowing. So I said, please give me some tips. He said, I'll give you 2 tips. Number 1, it's extremely dangerous. That's why there are less than 12 people in the world doing it today. People have died doing this. Tip number 2, don't try it. Those were his 2 tips. And instead of turning me away from sword swallowing, it actually persuaded me. It became one of my top things on my list of thrones to do, is to take up sword swallowing. I became passionate about it. I studied every book, every website, collected every photo on sword swallowing. I now own the world's largest collection of photos of sword swallowers, over 1,000 photos. And for 4 years, from 1997 to February 12th of 2001, I practiced sword swallowing every day, 10 to 12 times a day. And finally, on February 12th, 2001, I got my first sword down my throat. And I calculated it out the other day, and it was over 13,000 unsuccessful attempts before I got my first sword down. So if you've want a couple of takeaways for today, number 1, create a list of thrones. Number 2, be persistent. Number 3, when I lived in the Bahamas, millionaires in the Bahamas, I would constantly ask them questions, what is your secret for success? And they said, the secret for success is to take opportunity when it knocks. And I've followed that my entire life. When you have an opportunity, take it. So this takes us back to, I think, here we go, to how I got the 2007 Ig Nobel Prize in Medicine. In 2002, during these 4 years that I had learned sword swallowing, I founded the Sword Swallowers Association International. I networked all the sword swallowers together around the world. In 2002, we had our first convention in Pennsylvania, and we got a Guinness World Record for that. And after that, in 2004, I was contacted by Dr. Brian Whitcomb, who is a doctor in Gloucester, England, and we worked together on doing a research paper on sword swallowing. And it was, we called it sword swallowing and its side effects. And this paper was published in a little publication I had never heard of before, known as the British Medical Journal, which is, has millions of subscribers around the world. And because of this paper, we were nominated for the Ig Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2007. So people say, why would you write a paper on sword swallowing? Why would you do that? And the reason is, as the president of the Sword Swallowers Association, I knew that sword swallowing was a 4,000-year-old historical art, one of the oldest arts in the world. And out of the 4,000 years that we knew of sword swallowing, there was very little written in any medical journals. And so we set about to change that. We knew that there were dozens and dozens of very serious injuries that required hospitalization and at least 29 deaths. Now that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but that's in the past 150 years. 29 deaths out of 289 sword swallowers that we know by name. That's about a 10% fatality rate. So we said, we better study this so we have some information there for the rest of the sword swallowers. To put that in perspective, the number of people that have climbed to the top of Mount Everest since 1953, I believe it's 1953, Lori, isn't it? Is 2,200 people that have climbed to the top of Mount Everest. The number of people that have run the 3-minute mile is over 4,000 people. The number of people that have gone into outer space is now from someplace between 700 and 900 people. Yet today there are less than a few dozen sword swallowers performing around the world today. Out of a world population of 8.6 billion people, that makes me rather unique at being 1 out of every 250 million people. We also did it for historical reasons. We knew that Dr. Adolf Kussmaul in 1868 had developed the rigid endoscope by using a sword swallower at the University of Freiburg, Germany. And the art of sword swallowing had mixed with the cutting-edge science of technology. In 1897, Dr. Stevens, a Scottish doctor, used sword swallowers to work on digestion. In 1906, the first electrocardiogram was done on a sword swallower in Wales. So we knew that sword swallowing and science had worked together. So our study, the study was a 2-year study of all the sword swallowers around the world who are able to swallow at least a 15-inch long sword, about this long, 38 centimeters, solid steel sword. From our study, we received data from 46 current or past sword swallowers. 40 were men, 6 were women. The average length to learn sword swallowing was between 3 years and 7 years to learn to swallow just a single sword. Most of them could only swallow a single sword. A few could swallow 2 swords or more. The average age is 35 years. The youngest sword swallower was 12. The oldest is 75. Let's see if there's any other facts I can tell you about that. That was the study. Now, other items that sword swallowers swallowed, we found out. Drumsticks, long-handled spoon, giant screwdriver, big old screwdriver, surgical forceps for doctors, billiard cue stick, hedge clippers, giant straight razor, the sleigh runner up in Sweden, and my favorite, the running jackhammer. Ding, 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 ding. Some of the injuries that we learned in our paper were that 19 sword swallowers complained of sore throats, or what we call sword throats, usually while learning. 6 suffered perforations of the pharynx or esophagus. 3 had probable perforations. 3 required surgery. 1 had pleurisy. That was me. 1 had pericarditis. 1 had a bread knife removed transabdominally. 16 had intestinal bleeding, and the medical bills range from $50,000 to $80,000. No, that's not funny, believe me. This is a photo of the heart of a sword swallower we found in a museum in London last year. And this gentleman died in the 1940s, but the sword actually perforated his heart because the sword goes right next to the heart. It's only separated by about 1/8 of an inch of tissue. So the results of our paper were that we learned that a minor injury might lead to more serious injury. Injuries occur more often when multiple or unusual swords are swallowed, or when distraction causes a performer to lose interest, lose focus. And an example was a sword swallower who had 3 sword scissors in her while she was belly dancing, and a patron tried to put a $500 bill in her brassiere. She lost half of her blood. She now tours with Britney Spears right now. Another one is a sword swallower who was injured while swallowing 6 swords with a misbehaving macaw on the shoulder. And I can talk about that one personally. Little tip for you, if you're ever swallowing 6 swords at once, and you have your macaw on your shoulder and she climbs on the back of your neck and starts climbing down your collar, don't turn your head and look at her. Not a good idea. Another example was a sword swallower was injured while swallowing 2 swords while submerged in a tank of water. Again, that's unusual circumstances. And this actually, you laugh, but this just happened to me just a few weeks ago in Rome. I was in the hospital for 8 days on an IV drip, end of March, 1st of April. So it is very serious. Like I said, we know of 29 people who have died. Summary is, occasionally a sword is difficult to insert or remove. When in doubt, don't force a sword. And when injured, don't swallow another sword. So let me ask you, now how many of you believe sword swallowing really is real? A few of you do. Okay. Here's some photos from the 2007 Ig Nobel Prize. This is my acceptance speech. I swallowed the sword, leaned into the mic. You can see the other Nobel laureates there and the looks on their faces. And this is Dr. Whitcomb and I after the thing at Sanders University, or Sanders Theater. And this is swallowing the sword underwater. Actually, in 2007 for the Ripley's Believe It or Not, I've got, I believe, 5 or 6 Guinness World Records now. And I'm in both the Guinness book and the Ripley's book, the books that I looked at as a little kid wanting to do the impossible. This is underwater, which they made into a cartoon and put in the Ripley's Believe It or Not book. This is, I was swallowing 7 swords at one time at this point. The most I've ever swallowed is 8. My throne, my goal for the next few years is to try to get up to 10 or 12 swords at one time. So that is a little bit about sword swallowing. Is there anybody who still believes it's fake, it's a trick, a gimmick? We got some skeptics out here. Would you like to see a little demo? Would you like to see some real sword swallowing? Do we have enough time, Peter? All right, I'm going to do a very quick one here first. To prove that this is a real sword and not a curl-up, this is what it's going to do in my body. I'm going to impale my body with this sword like this and hope it doesn't drip out the other end. Here you go, Sam. Now, this is not as easy as it looks, okay? For those of you who thought it went into the handles, here's that hedge clippers. For something a little bit different, anybody know what this is? Now do you know what this is? It's a straight razor. This is a little bit dangerous. I can't lick it this way or I'd have a really big smile. Would you like to know where the blade really goes inside the body? Yeah? It's a little too gross and disgusting to describe in detail, but I'll try. Do we have anybody who works in the medical community, doctors, nurses here? No? Okay. Just have your cell phones ready in case anything goes wrong. In medical terms, what happens with the sword is what I have to do is I have to put the sword into my mouth. Now, I want you to think this along with me. We talked about the brain earlier today. Use your brains. Imagine that you're swallowing the sword with me, okay? What I'm going to have to do is I have to put the sword... Don't gag, please, okay? This is about an 18-inch sword. This will go down about to the bottom of my stomach here. What I have to do is I have to put the blade in my mouth. I lick the blade to warm it up and to feel for any nicks or burrs. Slide it in my mouth, repress the gag reflex first in the back of the throat. That's the first part. When I get to the back of my throat, the sword can go in one of two different directions. It can go down my sluchdarm, my esophagus, or into my left pipe, into my lungs. I really hope it doesn't go in the lungs. So I have to flip my epiglottis back, slide the blade down my esophagus, relax the peristalsis reflex, repress that so it doesn't swallow the food, the reflex that swallows the food, 22 pairs of muscles. I go past my breastbone here. Then I have to relax the lower esophageal sphincter. That's a tight muscle that holds your stomach closed. To relax that, slide the blade all the way down into my stomach. And if I go further than that, all the way down to my fallopian tubes. What do you call that? Eyelid? No. You can explain that to the English speakers later. That's in medical terms. In plain old English, I'm going to ram about 18 inches of solid steel down my gullet to tickle the bottom of my tummy. I'm going to need your help with this one. No. Yeah, you have to count with me. That's your part. If you know the words, okay? Shall we practice in Dutch? Ready? 1. No, it's 2. Now, Peter, I know we're short on time. I need your help. I need you to come on out here, if you could. Come on out here. Come here. We're short on time, so come on out. Come. Come stand right over here.
We didn't rehearse this.
Nah. Stand right here, right on the trap door there. Okay, face towards the people. Okay, stand with your feet shoulder width apart. Okay, relax. Take a deep breath. Lean back your head. No. Peter, I need you to be a representative of the audience and prove that sword swallowing is real. Can you take a look at that sword and vouch that that is a real sword?
It's heavy anyway.
It's not going to curl up. Just don't put your fingerprints all over it like that. See that? Now the police will know who to come and get. Yeah. Okay. What I'm going to try is 3 times more dangerous than regular sword swallowing. Danger number 1. I'm going to let this sword drop into my body. No hands like this, okay? I'm impaling myself, folks, right down here to the belt buckle. That's danger number 1. I'm going to let it drop like this. Danger number 2. While I have the sword inside my body, I'm going to attempt to double my body directly in half and bow at the waist, like this, okay? So you can see all the way down the blade, all the way down to the pit of my stomach. That's danger number 2. Then danger number 3. I'm going to ask Mr. Peter here to remove the blade from the pit of my stomach. So this is very easy. All you have to do is grab the blade and pull it straight out, okay? When I come around, do it very quickly, or my stomach can retch. Very quickly. If my stomach retches, it can puncture against the bottom of the sword. So pull it out very quickly. Not too fast, or it can slice the sides of my throat. Okay?
What is the cue?
I'll wink at you, okay? And whatever you do, don't scrape it up my backbone. Don't go brrrr like that. It really hurts. Just pull it straight out like this. And when you do, we'll finish up, okay? All right. This is 3 times more dangerous than regular sword swallowing. Here goes. Three times more dangerous than regular sword swallowing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Big round of applause for Peter.
Thank you.
Let me finish. Thank you. Thank you very, very much for letting me come. I'm just a little kid from Indiana who is scared of everything, but if I can do the impossible like this, you can do the impossible in your lives if you just believe and have faith. If you just have your dreams and believe, okay? Thank you for having me. Thank you for being part of my dreams.
How are you? How are you?